Hi, Nakul and Monty. Thank you for joining me for the IPL. Nakul and I, we did the auction together earlier in the year. And Monty, thank you for joining us for now, the IPL. And we hope that we'll produce more content throughout the IPL. And let's start with Rajasthan Royals and previewing their season with the IPL just around the corner. I Rajasthan were quick to announce early on in the year that they've made a captaincy change after they released Steve Smith. They announced Sanju Samson as the captain. So, how much of a difference will that make to the team? Also, with Jofra Archer missing definitely for the first part of the tournament, unsure about the second half. How much of a difference is that going to make? I want to hear from you, Monty, first, and then I'll come on to you, Nicole.
Yeah, obviously, Jofra Archer's going to be like, a big loss for, Rajasthan Royals, and he'll probably had a bit of a freak accident, which, happens in cricket. But hopefully he'll be back soon. But I think one player you haven't mentioned for me, Viraj, is Liam Livingstone. I think he'll be an exciting prospect. He did really well in the one day as against India, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play.
And Nakul, what about you? And he mentioned Liam Livingston and Jofra Archer. Those two, of course, Jofra is missing for the first half of the tournament. How much of a difference is that going to make? And what can we expect from Sanju Samson, the captain?
Yeah, Archer's definitely going to be missing for the first four games, maybe a little bit more. Obviously, it's a huge miss. He was the player of the tournament last year, rightly so, was magnificent. It was kind of holding Rajasthan's bowling attack together at pretty much every stage. It looked like they almost needed two of him. They needed him to bowl at at the top and at the death at the same time, and they obviously didn't have that. So people are going to have to step up. They've got options. They've got Andrew Tai in the squad, who's I think is a good bowler. Mustafizur, the Bangladeshi as well, could be a useful option. I like Liam Livingstone a lot, and I'm glad he's got his chance and taking it with England. How much he's going to play with the overseas balance is open to question. You'd imagine that Buttler, Stokes, and Chris Morris, who they spent a huge amount of money on, the most expensive auction buy in the history of the IPL, and someone who again fills that slot with being a death bowler, and it makes sense from a cricketing point of view. Even if the money gets a bit crazy, but that's that's how it works in football, and that's now how it works in the IPL. The money almost doesn't. It's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. So how much Livingston's going to play is open to question. I like the move of Sanju Samson opening. I think that they've got rid of Stephen Smith and Ajinkya Rahane, who both looked a little bit out of place in an otherwise very aggressive Rajasthan attack, or batting lineup rather. So I like the move. I don't think he has a huge amount of captaincy experience with Kerala or at any other level. I suppose the other option would have been to make Buttler captain, which could have been an option. But I like the idea of giving Samson a bit of responsibility. We saw at the start of last year he was brilliant. Won them a couple of games, particularly that game against CSK where he was magnificent. And I like to see. I'll be interested to see how that goes. The other option, the other thing I suppose with Rajasthan is where are they going to bat Ben Stokes? Is he going to open? A top three of Buttler, Stokes, and Sanju Samson can do a lot of damage. I think the issue with Rajasthan is how do they possibly replace Archer, and can they do anything? Can they restrict teams at the death? And who's the backup in the middle order? Because Rahul Tewatia won a couple of games to them single-handedly last year. You can't rely on that. So there are a few open questions for Rajasthan, but they look again like they should be an exciting team.
And I'm excited to see Rajasthan. I think Nakul, you'd mentioned in one of our auction videos that Rajasthan Royals have gone from that team at the start of the IPL, which used to be that budget team. You always had workhorses who were doing the trick for them, to being this team full of superstars. And it'll be interesting to watch them now. But Monty, I wanted to ask you, is Ben Stokes opened last year during the IPL and was quite magnificent opening the innings for Rajasthan. Do you expect him to continue opening, or do you think he'll move back into the middle order and Sanju Samson opens alongside Butler?
Well, I'll expect, I think Ben Stokes to open the batting. I think, it's probably you want to get your best batter with the new ball as much as possible, and especially that magnificent 100 he scored in the last one day. He was just once he gets going, he's probably one of the best players to watch in world cricket. He just gets into that sort of boundary six hitting mode, and is wonderful to see. So we hope more of that, during the IPL 2021. And yeah, expect him to, open the batting, possibly with Josh Butler. Could be the sort of destructive, opening pair, from any of the other IPL teams. But I think Virat Kohli's kind of said he wants to obviously open for Bangalore, as well. So there's some, exciting, some players playing. But I think, yeah, all eyes on Ben Stokes. I expect him to open, and I hope he does, throughout the whole tournament.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Stokes. But Nakul, you touched upon it earlier when we spoke about Archer, that he's going to be definitely missing for the first 4 games. Now, if you're the captain and you have to pick between Andrew Ty and Mustafizur Rahman, which one are you picking for the first game of the IPL?
I'm going with AJ Ty. Ty he looked for a couple of years as though he had been found out a little bit in that way that bowlers who bowl a lot of slower balls can be, but he's slightly simplified his game. He's mixing up those slower balls with the full pace delivery. He's added a yard of pace. I watched quite a bit of the Big Bash this year. He was very good for the Scorchers this year. He's playing in a completely different team. The way that Rajasthan go is totally different from how the Perth Scorchers set up, but I think Andrew Ty has improved a bit in the last couple of years. So I think he would be. There are worse fallback options than Andrew Ty, but I'm not sure anyone can replace Archer. And how the Indian fast bowlers go alongside him, whether that's Unadkat or Karthik Tyagi or Akash Singh, the Indian fast bowlers, how they go alongside it will be important. I think it's true of a lot of teams. It'll be not so much how the strong links go, but how the weak links go. How those, because you have to have 5 bowlers or 6 bowlers, and you can't rely purely on particularly with bowling. Those overs have got to be bowled, and they've got to be bowled effectively. And this is where Rajasthan fell down last year, even with Archer in the team. And how they do that without Archer in the team for the first 4 games or more is going to be fascinating. They're playing their first 5 games in Mumbai, assuming that it stays in Mumbai, which is a fast-scoring pitch, a high-scoring pitch, a difficult pitch to restrict teams on. So it could be a lot of fun watching Rajasthan in those first few games. It could be a lot of, they'll score 200, but they'll need to.
Yeah, it'll be. I'd certainly be watching all the Rajasthan games because I think there'll be an entertaining package this IPL. But lastly, to finish off, to both of you, the same question: does Rajasthan make the playoffs in your opinion?
Not quite. I think the fact that Archer's missing for so much of the tournament, I think is a massive problem, as it would be for anyone. And I think that again on this weak link thing, I think that the depth of quality for Rajasthan is not quite as high as it is for some of the other franchises. So no, I think they'll be entertaining, but we'll just miss out on the playoffs.
Monty?
Yeah, look, I think there'll be a huge onus on Ben Stokes and Josh Butler. They're like both best mates, and sometimes you've seen other combinations in the IPL with AB de Villiers, Virat Kohli. Great mates, and they get the best out of each other. And I think for especially with the T20 World Cup coming up, there'll be all eyes on some of the English players. In England, we'll be having looking at all of them. So we hope that Rajasthan Royals do make it through, because then it means that most of the English players have done really well and they're in good form. So especially with the 100 as well, starting in July, I think it'll be wonderful to see Rajasthan Royals, make it into the semi-finals.
And of course, only time will tell if Rajasthan makes the semi-finals. But thank you for coming up for this first part of this series where we cover all the 8 teams. So thank you for joining me for part 1, and I'll see you 2 in part 2.